Oh, this is why. I got to scoot you over there a little bit, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Well, you move the mic. That's what moved me in the wrong place.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm going to switch sides here with you. How's that look?
That looks
better. Ooh. You got something to open the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want to open the show with?
No, I'm opening it with you.
Okay.
You're the show. I can't get my hair to sit right, Mike. It's like up in the front or down in the front.
I think you should do a reverse mohawk. Shave it down the middle, all the way out the back.
If I wait another 10 years, it'll be that way automatically. Oh, well. Oh, well.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished on who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the award-winning #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, joining us in the studio, we have Taryn Smedley, an equine body worker. She's going to talk about redirection versus release, and the body of a horse is a house, and emotional and physical thresholds. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far inside, my very own inspirational thought is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing excellent, by the way. We've had a good week here on the property. And hold on one sec. My camera's out of focus, so give me
It's not the camera.
It's not the camera?
You.
It's me? I'm out of focus?
Yes.
I look like I'm out of focus. So everything's been peaceful here on the property. And we broadcast just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town called Marshville. We sit on about 22 some odd acres here. We have a couple of horses on the property. My wife rides dressage, and Mike is our farrier. And
that's because it's just a sad world.
Yes. What do you mean it's a sad world?
Well, you ended up with me.
No. You were highly recommended to us, and we've had a relationship doing this show for the last 4 years. So what have you been up to this past week? I've seen from Catherine. It's Catherine.
Catherine, yes.
Yeah, I've seen she's posting all the time. And
sure she is. She's on it.
And she writes for, what is it, Above the Wire or something like
Across
that?
the Wire.
Across the Wire.
Across the Wire, yeah.
And she's the editor and one of the chief writers out there, and she's been talking about the Preakness that's been going on.
Yes.
So what has been going on your end with the Preakness as far as...
I didn't see a lot because I have been slammed work-wise, is normal. And I did catch the Preakness after the fact. And
you mean after it was done?
After it was done. And I tried to place a bet after it was done, but I couldn't get him to take it. I usually try to bet afterwards.
Try to sneak it under the wire?
Under the wire, yes. But somehow they don't allow that.
Oh, well.
Yes, I never do good on my bets.
So what was your outcome? What was the opinion that you had about the Preakness this year?
Well, I watched it, and a horse by the name of Journalism won. And, was watching the race. I did not know the outcome. But, he was running pretty strong, and then he got himself tied up in traffic. He was trying to drive into Charlotte, right?
Yeah, at 9 o'clock in the night.
Yeah, exactly. But, he's a serious horse for sure. And, of course, all those horses are serious horses. But, he was trying to accelerate, and he was blocked in, and he pulled a NASCAR maneuver, like old school NASCAR.
Rubbin's racing, baby.
Rubbin's racing. He rubbed on both sides, and he shot the gap.
Two really important decisions by Umberto Rispoli. First, to stay on the rail. He has an opportunity right now to go around those horses. He chooses not to take it, which puts him in position not only to save ground, to get through between. If he goes around, I don't know if he wins. So he runs up inside, goal-oriented right here. Now, Flavien Prat on goal-oriented starts to lay in on him a little bit here. Umberto's having none of it. He's going to hold his ground.
Look at the elbows.
They're getting close to Clever again. So now the elbowing starts, and it is a tight hole.
First it was Flavien with the elbow, and then Umberto gave as good as he got. And then you saw this part of it where goal-oriented really came over on Journalism. And poor Clever again down on the rail didn't know what to make of all this. What bravery. What bravery. This reminds me a little bit. 1933 Kentucky Derby, there was a race between Broker's Tip and Head Play they called the Fighting Finish. I mean, these two guys were going at it for a while.
And I get Flavien trying not to make it easy on journalism. That's his job, to not give it to anybody. But I think he went over the line in the last few strides of that contact and trying to finish him off. But the courage of the horse of journalism to do this.
Right there, that acceleration, like you were thinking, Gosker's got this.
Yeah.
It's over. And what an acceleration in those last 20, 30 yards from journalism.
When Fleet Alex won the Preakness
Pulled
in
through, and it
2011,
was very close. But once he got loose, got out of traffic, he started moving, and it was a close call on it. But he won.
Was he a favorite to win, or did he come from the outskirts and or you don't know?
Well, I don't know the odds on anything, because I just been buried in my stuff.
Right.
But he was definitely a strong contender that day for sure.
Well, everyone out there who watched the races and stuff, I had a couple of high school friends of mine that I'm friends with on Facebook. They actually went out there, which is it's weird because when I was in high school, horses and anything like that in my nature was not part of my everyday life. Now my wife rides horses, that's why we live on the property and everything like that. But I saw some high school friends that were on the same level as me. The whole drama nerd and the theater and the yachts and everything like that. They were out there watching the horse races. They were taking pictures of their their vouchers and stuff that they were doing. I was like going, really? You guys are into this kind of stuff? Well, you should listen to this show.
There's a lot of people that go.
It's a great show.
And in a few weeks, we got the Belmont coming up. And what was that, 3 weeks, I think. And to me, that's always an interesting race because it's a longer race. And the horses that can make or break them for sure. But we're not going to have a Triple Crown winner this year.
Now, I forget, when you have the Kentucky Derby, how old are the horses?
They're 3-year-olds.
3-year-olds. Is it 3-year-olds through all 3 races, or is like the Preakness?
The 3-year-olds are running against the 3-year-olds.
Okay, so it's 3-year-olds no matter what.
Right.
No, on all the Triple Crown.
Right, on the Triple Crown, it's all 3-year-olds.
So when does it become the older horses? What races are those?
Well, there are races for the older horses, and when you go to like the Breeders' Cup, they'll have multiple ages running against each other.
That's what I was thinking about, the Breeders' Cup.
Right, and there are races where that are all set up different, but you have your 2-year-old races and then your 3-year-old races, and then if the horses are deemed in good enough shape and qualified well enough and all that kind of stuff, they can continue to race for a while. And but they do have to be in good shape, and they are checked out, and they make they're on top of staying on top of what's going on with these animals. They more than ever now.
Well, on top of the equine world, as far as body workers, we have Taryn Smedley that's going to be coming up here shortly. So we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we'll bring her on the air. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video over on YouTube, and you can see her in real time as we're talking about it here on the air, and you can hear the full-length podcast over on YouTube. Just search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on YouTube. Give him a subscribe over there, creeping up on 3,000 listeners over there as well. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Always blurry.
There you go.
There you go. So, Taran, that's basically how the show runs.
Cool. I'm ready. I will say I have a hard time of not going full throttle and making it. It'll be fine.
No.
It'll be a good
go full throttle if that's where you are.
I live under a rock and all.
Through the miracle of editing.
And then we cut in South Park characters to fill in the gap.
Right. The video portion, which is true what I said, that's the full length show. I don't do really any editing other than the transitions in between breaks. So the full length show, as you hear it, as you watch it, is on the YouTube channel. So if you watch the two, they're two different shows technically.
Right.
So
right. And the connection that we have is, before we talked about him, you'd called him William, but it's Wilbur.
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about last
Mike,
week?
Are you gonna give your input blurb on him too on the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Because I'd explain, your version with him, and because how I interpret Wilby is very, and I call him Wilby. Yeah.
Well, we'll call him whatever.
Wilby.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
you ready?
He's the unicorn.
Okay, you ready?
Right.
Taryn, you ready?
I'm born ready.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you could join the podcast. The way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the very top of the page says, join the podcast. Click on that. It opens up a brand new page for you, and you can see all the past shows from the past 4 years. We're wrapping up season 12 here in the next couple weeks or so, but you can get caught up during that time. Go over to join the podcast, and when I say join the podcast, your voice, your physical voice can be heard during the show. If you want to ask Mike Stine a question, there's a little orange bar at the very top that says leave a message for Mike Stine. You can be anonymous if you want. Click on that, opens up a microphone on whatever device you're listening to us on or at. Speak right into it. It does want an email just to make sure you're not a robot, and it comes right to our inbox, and we broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town we like to call Marshall. So get your voice on here and be heard during the show. And everyone that wants to listen to everyone over there on my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? And thank you for being with us today, Taryn. Did I say your name right?
I appreciate it.
And joining us this week, equine body worker Taryn Smedley is joining us. Now, Taryn, where are you located right now?
I'm in Tryon, North Carolina.
Right down the road from us, Mike.
Right around the corner, yes.
She could have come in the studio because it's only, what, an hour, 2 hour, 4 hour drive from us?
It's not. Yeah, a couple hours.
I mean, I think maybe a little over an hour. It's really not bad.
It depends on how you drive and what time you hit.
It's nothing. That's like an hour is down the road.
Right, yes, exactly.
Traveling.
Yeah, especially in the position that you have. Yeah, you could have joined us here in the studio, Mike. What is the deal? We could have had her right here in the studio in our guest chair right there.
Well, you're dealing with me.
I even asked. I was like, "Oh, I can join in on the studio," and I mean, I know with lives are just chaos, but it's fine. It's all right.
Oh, well, we're having a great time with you, and thank you for joining us. So here's my question. I always ask this, and I always preface this by, how did you get into the horse community and the horse experience and the horse? Hold on, before you get in there. And my theory from we've had at least 100 some odd guests that have been on our show, and the story that I always hear, and I want to see if it fits into your narrative. My mom,
the stereotype.
No, my mom and dad or one of my parents had a horse. I was raised on a horse with my family. There was no one around to do anything. I had to learn through my family, and then I just had to connect myself with the horse community, and I found out that I loved it. I started out riding, and then if you're a farrier, the guy who was riding or the lady who was riding, because we've had a lot of female farriers on here. Right. They're doing very well out there. I needed to shoe the horse, so I had to learn how to shoe the horse.
I was told don't do that. I said, okay, watch this.
and we've had other people on there that have gone into medicine because they were riders or they had horses, and the same thing. So did I fit any of those narratives as far as how you got into the equine community and how did you become and decide on being a body worker?
I am so excited to be, I actually went the complete opposite end, or I started completely opposite. So my parents, not a single other person in my family does anything with horses. I am the only one. I mean, there might be someone that I don't know, but I am the only one on both sides of the family that is in some kind of equine industry capacity, right? So when I was really young, I started taking riding lessons with a friend of mine. And this was it was 7, and we just started taking her mom came from horses and did stuff with horses. So I guess I kind of piggybacked off that experience, I don't know. And so she was really interested in horses, and then we both rode together. We did that for a little bit. She kind of fizzled out a little bit. She wanted to keep doing it, but couldn't. I kept riding, and just kind of submerged myself and horses, and that's kind of where it started. Now how I got into body work, I was a barn manager for the largest Icelandic horse facility in the US in Kentucky. We had, I think at the time, 47 Icelandics.
That's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, and we had stallions that were over in Iceland too. I had 47 horses to take care of, and you start to get kind of creative on different modalities, and I used a laser for a while, which was really helpful and beneficial, and we would have a massage therapist come in, a chiropractor, of course, and I really would take note of, okay, this is a really cool and different approach to horse care, right? It's not just about husbandry, and I really enjoyed that. And then I left that job and got a fell pony who had a lot of complications, and he kind of fell into my lap. And he's a good guy.
Yeah, you don't see many of those guys around.
Yeah. But he fell into my lap for a reason. He has some body limitations, and I wanted to help him out the best that I could. And I'm the kind of person that just does things myself. So,
do you still have this horse?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. He's 8. Yeah. He's in basically my backyard right now. I have the horse property on the same as where I live. So I get to, look out the window and see him right there. So that's kind of how my journey started. I did a pretty integrated, through most of the year, hands-on approach in getting my certification for equine massage is where I started. That started about February. By August of that same year in 2021, I joined Brianna Blackwelder of Equine Muscle Works. She had me start with her as her first extra practitioner because she was going into vet school and she just graduated. So it's been a fun journey for the both of us. But I kind of took over some of her clients when she went off to do vet school that were in that area, which was Fort Mill, South Carolina, and some other places. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with body work.
So the question the question I have when you say body worker, my wife, like I said, I told you prior to the show opening, is my wife has 3 horses. We have 2 horses here on the property, and then we have one that's in a training facility. The horses that are here on the property were show horses at one time. They were my wife's show horses, but they've kind of quote unquote retired. They haven't gotten to, my wife has surpassed the level that those horses are willing to be able to do, type deal. So the horse that we have now, buy a faster car, that type deal. This car's slow. Let's get a faster car. So she's always saying, one time she'll come out and she'll say, the chiropractor's coming out. And the next time she comes out, she's like, oh, the masseuse is coming out. And the next time she'll say, the body worker's coming out. So when she said,
that farrier had,
yeah, and then the farrier's coming out. When she says those 3 different topics, can't those just all be lumped under body worker?
Kind of go in the,
yeah. I mean, tell me exactly when she says a body worker is coming out, what am I expecting to see when I go out there in the barn and who's going to be out there?
You're going to see you writing a check.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So to me, body worker means that I'm including multiple different modalities within that session. So a massage therapist, and this is how I interpret it, you're going to expect someone to strictly just give that horse either a sports massage, working within the fascia, whatever that might mean for that practitioner, right? That's the dog drinking water. They're going to give that horse, whatever the time period they have, an hour, hour and a half, a massage. I'm a body worker, so I not only include massage, but I also do craniosacral therapy, which is working within your cerebrospinal fluid. Oh my goodness. Cerebrospinal fluid of the body from skull, spine to sacrum. And then I'm also going to include, and this is going to be fun for the listeners that don't quite understand horses very well.
Like me.
But external gelding scar.
Oh,
release.
Yeah, the old gelding scolding scar. Yeah.
Exactly.
A stud horse stands in the back end different from a gelding.
Basically working within scar tissue. So we had a stallion, and now we have a gelding. The process in between includes surgery, right? It's kind of like you're neutering a dog. And that's going to create a lot of pulling and issues within the body, because that's a pretty big surgery, right? And anyway, we'll go into that later. External gelding scar release, I include tuning forks for like sound vibrational therapy. You said
forks, right?
Yeah, forks. Yeah, not spoons, forks. Yeah, sometimes knives. No, I'm just kidding. And that's, I like to include that for, say, like the horses within a sanctuary that have been really abused, traumatized, like emotionally, physically, where you just can't touch them yet. Like they are at the point where consent to touch is just not there. So sound healing has been studied and is well documented in helping a vast majority of problems. So I like to include that too. I also have a red light. I don't use that as much as I used to. Actually, a client right now is borrowing it for her horse who has a big open wound, so she's using that right now.
You're basically, I don't want to say basically, because I hate to use that term in your job, because it's very important what you do. So to break it down to brass tacks, a massager is a massager. A body worker is a massager plus type deal.
Right.
So
yes, generally there'll be more things added to that. It's also, I think, there's saying body worker is a little bit more accepted in certain states than masseuse. So in some states, you have to have a vet's referral in order to get a massage therapist out, right? So if you say body worker, it kind of, not that you're trying to skirt around the law, that's a terrible way to put it, but because you include more things in that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
And then a chiropractor, which is not what I do, you have to be essentially, you have to be a licensed veterinarian. You have to go get your doctorate in order to manipulate the spinal system.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
System,
so
which I don't do.
Got it. So if I was trying to save money, I can hire a body worker.
You're not going to save money.
I know.
You're not going to save money. No.
Darn it. I was trying. All right.
You've got horses. Right. There's no such thing as saving money.
I know. Well, we're going to take a quick little break. And when we come back, Taryn Smedley is going to tell us about redirection and release of the horse and what she actually physically gets her fingers in there and does. So stick around. You'll listen to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget to follow him over on Facebook. The way you do that is search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook. You've been posting a lot of articles up there, Mike. Every other day I see an article up there about something about the spine of the horse, the biomechanics of the horse, and it's always a good read. And I look at them, and I'm like going, well, what are we going to talk about this week on this week's show?
It depends on the day.
And I look and I see all the different articles and stuff that you post over there. So if you want to continue your education and you're tired of watching all those political posts and all those trying to get you to buy something over on TikTok or whatever, go over to Facebook, Equine Dynamics, and give Mike a subscribe.
We're not doing political posts.
No, we don't do political posts over there. And it's great to further your education over on Facebook. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. My very own Facebook page over there is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you? And how are you, Taryn?
I'm great. I'm
just having fun.
And joining us this week here in the studio is Taryn Smedley. She's an equine body worker, which is a massage plus bonus all the way down the line. So, and she's joining us here in the studio, and we thank you very much. Now, we wanted to talk about, you went in there and you were talking about all the different things you do. You do the massaging, but you do a little bit more extra. You were talking about the cranium skull gelding scar or something. I forget what you were.
The skull gelding scar.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But we wanted to talk about.
There are people that call that a lobotomy.
I think I've had 2 of those. We want to talk about something that you wanted to bring up to let the audience listeners know is about redirection and release. So when we say redirection and release, are we talking about pain? Are we talking about fluids? Are we talking about, what do we mean? What do we define by redirections and release when it comes to being a body worker?
So that's a great question. And it kind of varies horse to horse. Why I say redirection versus release is, we come into an appointment and, there's in theory, some expectation of, okay, like, so for a person, right? Like say you go into, wanting to get a massage and you're like, oh, I got this issue in my leg and it really hurts. Like, I want you to work it out. Right. And that, your expectation is you want to get that released. What if you have that issue because there's something else going on, and
compensation problem?
Exactly. If you release that, you're going to then either destabilize it, or then there's going to be some kind of, snowball effect that will then, in a way, not create more issues, but just make it a little bit more challenging, right? It's never just, oh, I have one thing right here, because everything is connected. And so if you have a problem in your hamstring, you're going to have a problem in your glutes. You're going to have a problem in your back. You're going to have a problem, probably in your shoulder, because you're compensating in some way.
Right.
And horses, being a quadruped, meaning because they've got 4 legs and not 2, where they compensate is going to be a little bit more exaggerated than people, right?
Mike, you're going to say something?
And they had it rather well. And one thing I get, if you got a horse that's locked up, frozen up top, and you start chasing distortions in the feet, well, the foot's doing this, and the foot's doing that. The farrier's not, whatever. Mm-hmm. But on the other end, if the horse is locked up top, that is a cause and effect thing.
Yeah, it's as above, so below, and vice versa.
And vice versa, if the feet are not centered up to where they should be under the horse in relationship, you're going to see problems up top.
Exactly. And so Travis, with horses, their front limb is only connected by muscles, tendons, and ligaments. So like with people, we have a clavicle, horses don't, right? So we have here to connect to our arms, and we have bones that can connect, right? Horses don't have that.
Right.
So with horses, when we have an issue in their feet, and like Mike for a high-low horse, that limb is kind of distorting itself in a way, not because it's probably genetically shorter, but because everything is all tightening up and creating
the angulation of the joints is different and everything else.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's creating like a cause and effect. And, when we start messing with that too much, because we have to meet them where they're at. And if I start releasing things, so say we have an issue with our elbow, a very unstable elbow. And this means maybe the horse is going to kind of wobble, kind of like with Wilby. He might wobble a little bit, and that front limb, and
go ahead, Mike.
All the way down the leg.
Go ahead.
Right. Well, you were working with Wilby before.
Now hold on. You can't just throw Wilby out there and make everyone.
You do Wilby.
Who we have new listeners that join the show every week. Mike, who's Wilby?
Wilby is Wilby.
Did we talk about him on last week's show?
No, we talked about him a little while back.
Okay.
Wilby is a saddlebred who landed in the lap of a lady who has gone to extremes to make sure that he is okay.
Okay.
And he has a knee that is not good on the left. When I was first called, his left front angle was collapsed and broken over backwards hard. Mm-hmm. The right front was upright. He's had some laminitis. The hind end on him in comparison is great, but I'm sure his SI has been a bit of an issue and everything else. So I got a call from one of the vet techs. You've got to take this one on, because I think at that point he couldn't walk. And
you and Taran have been working tag teaming.
And she has been working on the horse. I think you were involved with Wilbur well before I was.
It was about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's been 2 years. Yeah.
Right. And Wilbur, the first time I saw him, I was like, this horse is not playing by any of the rules as far as foot, because you got the really broken back foot that is crushed and the knee that won't straighten out. So if you bring that up, the knee wants to go forward, and trying to find out a relationship there to where we can work. And then you've got the whole situation with the clubby foot that's been laminitic, and the whole situation with the shoulder movement on that side.
So if I call Taryn Smedley to come out and work on my horse for the first time, when you look at the horse, what is the first thing that you're looking for? What do you, outside, of course, the owner or the trainer or the rider is going to give you information. Based on what they give you, what's the first, first step one, I got to do this, to either, in your mind, are you releasing or are you redirecting?
So my first step is to not have any expectations.
Okay, so everything out the window.
That's like when people ask me.
As you probably know, if you go in with a horse and say, okay, we're going to do this today, they're going to say, okay, game, set, match. And they're going to do the opposite thing, right?
Sure.
Or just something. They're goofy. But I have my own little list of protocols, but every horse is their own individual and they're all different. So when I go in and see a horse like Wilby, who, the owner doesn't have, there's no strict expectations of like, oh, he's got to get to this and he's got to do that. And he's just her little unicorn, right? Is what she calls him.
Right.
And so when I go and see him, I see him as more of, okay, here are the things that we have going on. It is my job and my best ability to keep him comfortable. I'm not here to demand or expect any big changes. I just want to help encourage and facilitate the body to promote self-healing.
Well,
because the body at the end of the day knows itself better than anything else. Go ahead, Mike.
That's one of those deals like with him and with any horse. I had to have a discussion with an owner the other day about expectations of the horse's movement patterns. And I know, like, when I was asked to prep horses for the WEG, and you got a horse that's not tracking straight, and I need him tracking straight, and I need him opened up, and I need this, and I need this, and I need the muzzle development, all that. And I was given, you've got, 2 or 3 months. It's like, ooh, cool. You know what I mean? And, but with Wilbur, I mean, and that's like we want this and this and this and this to happen. I said, it's up to the horse. And you don't want to overpush him because the development of tendons and ligaments are slower than muscles. And, of course, the ligaments develop slower than the tendons do. And, you're changing pressure on all that.
All right, we're going to take a quick look. Oh, go ahead.
Well, this has been developed for, years at this point. This didn't just happen overnight.
No.
So when you start manipulating that change, that's going to cascade a huge effect through the whole body. And
Sure.
we come in, we think we're helping them. Well, we are, to a degree, like, yeah, we're helping them, but helping them to some degree, depending on what it is, can also hurt them. So, we've got to be very careful with that very delicate system. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the horse's body is like a house. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Buttons here. Are you having a good time, Taran?
This is so fun. I love it.
Now you're going to go back and listen to all the shows, and you're like, well, where has this show been all my life? This is a great
I love it.
The body of a horse is a house, and emotional and physical thresholds. Is that something that they both need their own segment for?
Yeah, I can lump them together.
Okay. And then we'll and then the last segment after this one will be the
what did we learn?
What did we learn? Correct. I know it goes by so fast.
It does. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're already halfway there.
Yeah. All right, so welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Scott. Mike Stine. You think I remember your name here after so long?
It's like we've never done it before.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine, you don't want to go on the air, that's fine. A lot of people don't want to have their voice heard on the air. You can actually physically type him an email. Do you remember what emails are, Mike?
I've never sent an email in my life, believe it or not.
But these people out there, our listeners out there, can send Mike an email.
I'm very techy.
Go to equinedynamics.com. At the very top of the page says contact us. Fill out that little form and make sure you put a physical address in there and a return address. We'll mail you out some magnets, some stickers. I got some new stuff coming in. I just approved the proofs for the new logo. Mike Stine's got a new logo coming out. You got a new logo coming out. And that'll be revealed next, what's the 26th? The order should be here by the 20th. Let's say next week's show.
Right.
We'll have the new logo for everyone to check out, and you can get yours now. Just go over to equinedynamics.com, hit contact us, and put a question in there. We'll read it on the air. Mike Stine will either email you back or read it on the air, and we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers, and all that for being on the show. And over to my far hand side, my very own new logo is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing well. And joining us this week,
we've got Taran with us, right?
We have equine body worker extraordinaire, Taryn Smedley. Thank you very much for joining us, Taran. You know, out of my whole entire life, you're the second Taran I've ever met.
Really?
Yes, I had
spelled the same way.
I think the Taran that I knew in high school, it was Tarin, I believe it was. Yours is a Y. Yeah, yes. But that was back in 1980 when I was on high school, so it was still a new and unusual name. So thank you for joining us this week. We were talking about the redirection and release of a horse, and actually what the term body worker means in Taran's eyes as far as what she does, her actual position and everything. Now we're going to talk about, you say the horse is like a house. The body of a horse is like a house. So are you talking about like the bones of the horse? Like when you buy an older home, they always say it's got good bones. The exterior might need a little facade fix up and stuff, but the house itself has got good solid bones. Is that what you're referring to when we're talking about a horse is like a house?
Kind of.
Okay.
So
you can say no. You can say no. You are way wrong. You're totally wrong.
Well, it's more like when I approach a horse, I try to use my listening skills to the best of my ability. So when I, meet a horse for the first time, or even horses that I've been working on for years, when I say a house, there are an unlimited amount of rooms in that house. And sometimes, maybe like a horse with Wilby, sometimes the basement's flooding, or sometimes the attic's caving in.
Bad foundation.
You go in.
Bad foundation.
You go in, and there's, and this is where I was kind of, going with the redirection versus release, is there are some horses who they have rooms where the, and I say room, not, rum, not room or whatever. And is those doors are closed. So say we have a horse that has severe osteoarthritis, or laminitis, for example, those rooms are going to be closed, right? And if I go in and start busting those doors wide open, then that's going to be that's big no-no, right? Because they need that tension in order to move through time and space effectively, right? So when I apply my listening skills on the horse and I go to a room and say, hey, can you open? And it's like, oh, I can't do that right now. That's fine. I'll go to the next one, right? And I go room to room to room through the whole body and into the visceral and into, connective tissue, our fascia, all these different areas, and say, okay, is this a door that can be opened, or do you need to stay shut right now? And if it needs to stay shut, that's fine. I'll move on to the next one. And is this a room that I can maybe crack the door open, start getting some airflow in there because it's been closed off for a long time? What say you, to the horse, right? So that's kind of where my approach with it.
I wish you would have like some kind of schematic chart that would show the rooms the way you picture it in your mind, because I know exactly what you're talking about, because I can picture all these little doorways and little hallways and stuff on a horse's body. And like I said, I'm the simpleton of the show. Mike has what's that picture drawing and stuff you got on the floor over there?
You told me to throw it away.
I didn't say throw it away. I said keep it off the table. I said keep it off the table because you have a tendency to play with things on the table. Oh, and you make noises.
You guys are a hoot.
Yeah, they can't. There you go. Yeah. There.
Oh, there we go. That's a good chart. Yeah, I like that one.
So that chart there, but when I look at the skeleton of the horse, I take those skeletons and I make them each one an actual compact room. Like this is the foyer, this is the living room, this is the dining room, this is the guest bedroom 1, guest bedroom 2. If you had a chart like that, that'd be awesome for a guy like me to picture that when you talk about opening doors and opening rooms and stuff.
On my job, like with some of the things she's talking about, I've got to figure out how to do it despite the rooms closed.
Yeah, Mike doesn't have a skeleton key like Taran does.
I got a big hammer.
So once you get into these rooms and stuff, and you get in there, where you cross these thresholds. Now there are several different types of thresholds that you get into when you're dealing with a horse and releasing and redirecting and moving all these stuffs around. You get an emotional threshold, and physical threshold. Well, now when you say emotional threshold, are you talking about the horse itself going, oh my God, this is awesome? Or are you talking about the owner?
That can be both.
I was going to say, because an emotional, yeah.
And they're tied in, they're very tied in together.
So define those for us, Taryn.
So what I mean by that is sometimes if it's broke, I can't fix it, right? Like that's your veterinary medicine. I'm not veterinary, so I can only go in the ease of direction, or I can go kind of, step by step and get the consent of the horse to say, hey, is this something we can work on? And I have to gauge the threshold on their ability to sustain that either emotional change, so whether that be as a horse that has had severe trauma, and I have to gauge what I'm feeling in my hands, the tissue change, and also watching their expression to say, okay, is this when I back off, or is this where I keep going? Is this a reaction, or is this a more of a positive emotion, right? And then a physical threshold, which also ties into the emotional, is say we have a horse with kissing spine. And there's a lot of upper level riders or upper level horses that, they're competing with kissing spine. Sure. And they're managing it. That is just life. And can we avoid it? I have horses that I work on that they had the surgery years ago. And that was, before I was like, hey, maybe we can try to do some in-hand work. We can try to, incorporate body work, whatever. Right. It's already been done and said with, and so say that horse has a very high pain tolerance and has a high threshold to what's happened to them. That's when we can have the discussion of saying, okay, maybe your abilities are a little bit greater than the horse who has a very minor kissing spine diagnosis and they think the world is falling apart.
Right. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I say the show horses that I have, they don't have kissing spine, but that's the situation that we're in. The horse has something not wrong, but it cannot achieve this certain level. Dominique cannot achieve this certain level because there is something small there that needs to be worked on and stuff, and it can only achieve this certain level. So that's technically what we went through with the mare that we have here on our property. Hence the reason why we bought Diego, which is our gelding, which is our he's 5 years old, 6 years old now. Jeez. That's
and there goes your retirement you thought you had.
There goes my 401k and all that stuff. But yes, I understand completely as far as, the approach that you have.
That's a good name for a horse, 401k.
Is you, at the end of the day, it is our duty to them to try to find within our, financial budget and our abilities, what is going on, to be able to listen to them and say, okay, we have determined kind of here's what we've got going on, what can we do to manage that or help them with that? And the other is, you listen to your horse. You said, okay, this horse, here's some limitations, but you know what? Like, I'm not going to push you. I listened. You get to go be retired now, or whatever, that you are doing with them. The ones that are at your house, the two that are at your house, not the one training. You said, okay, like, that's okay. I accept you for who you are. This is your threshold. This is your current ability. And I listen to it, and you get to go be a pasture puff.
Well, tell you, there's, as far as the competition horses I work on, and I wish more people would do this, but like with my upper end event horses, we compete, we go into rehab mode, we compete. And, rehab conditioning, and you're not necessarily jumping all that, but horses need to cycle into periods when we're looking at let down, let's rehab, let's rebuild, let's recondition, and then go back to compete. Because part of the problem now is, it used to be you'd have a spring season and a fall season, now it's year-round season, and we're constantly go with that. But your horses that are making it to the higher levels, they get some letdown. They get some times that we're just purely focused on conditioning, body position, and all that, not necessarily drilling maneuvers.
Mm-hmm.
So is there an emotional aspect to a horse I mean, we talked about the physical and stuff. Is there emotional, and if it's my emotions, if a human emotion, how do I handle that?
You write check.
Yeah.
That is when you get your equine behavioralist out, and that's another.
Okay.
No, it's it kind of varies. So the body stores trauma, just like how the body store, like the human body stores trauma, right? There's different, the psoas is a very emotional muscle. And so when we work through that, there's emotions that are coming out with that, when we're saying, hey, can you, like with yoga, if you ever go in and do yoga and you start opening up your hip flexors, oh my gosh, it's an emotional experience, and it's similar to horses, right? I do a lot of in-hand work with them.
You're going to have to do goat yoga.
A lot of a huge range of emotions with that, because it's hard for them to process that. And it's the same when working on a horse. I'm touching in on stuff that's, they don't quite understand why I'm touching in on it. They're like, ow, that hurts. What are you doing? And, maybe that's an area I stop for right now and I go somewhere else that's more enjoyable, and then I come back to it. And that's where kind of we're gauging that threshold of like, okay, where are we at with this? Is this where the session ends today? Do I, it's acquiring those listening skills. And that might just be a door that's shut and I just can't open it, and that's okay.
All right, we're going to take one more quick little break, and we'll let you go back to playing with your ponies here shortly. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Is that good? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
No,
that's
terrible.
perfect.
It sucks.
Mike,
No, we're good.
No, Taryn, that was perfect. Yeah, I told you. Never mind, Mike. I was saying.
What?
No,
say it.
No, I was saying to Mike, I said, put the thing down there so you can just grab it and pick the chart up. And I don't know, here's what he wants.
I'm a guy.
As most men do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can be part of the... Jesus, I'm not even ready. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can join the podcast at any time. We broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and a little town called Marshville. You can join the podcast. Hit equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says join the podcast. The little button right there says leave a message for Mike Stine. Click on that. Opens up a microphone on your device. It's simple. You hit record, listen back, and then send. It's going to want an email address. You can be anonymous if you want. It does want a physical email address to make sure that you're not a robot, and your voice can be heard on the podcast next week. And over to my far hand side, my very own Monday morning quarterback is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you? And glad to have you with us, Taryn.
Thanks for having me.
And joining us this week is equine body worker extraordinaire is Taryn Smedley. Thank you very much for joining us. So, Mike, what did we learn today?
What did we learn today?
Talking with Taryn Smedley of the equine body worker, we were talking about redirection and release. Taryn, what do we mean by that when we say redirection and versus re-release or re-release?
So say we have a horse with, or even shoot a person too, like we have arthritis, right? That is issues within bone that are not going to change. They're just going to keep going. So if there's muscle tension in that area and I release it and I destabilize anything, say we have a limb that's, it has a lot of tension and I release all of that, well, I've just gotten rid of a very useful limb that's able to keep itself upright. Kind of like with Wilby, the little saddlebred that we've been talking about. He's got front limbs that if I destabilize anything in, he's going to only have two legs to stand on, and that's my fault. And that's not going to be good for him, right?
And I'm trying to keep the two legs where he can stand on them.
Yeah. So I don't want to release those areas. I want to redirect them. I want to take that fascia, I want to take that muscle and find different uses for them to the best of my ability. So when we break up the horse's body, 60% is in the front end, 40 is in the hind end. The front end is our balancers, 40% in the back is our stabilizers. So instead of working directly on his front limbs where the eye draws of, oh, wow, that's a lot of tension, I'm going to do some stuff in his neck. I'm going to do some stuff in his hamstrings. I'm going to say, hey, let's change kind of where you put things to help release the biggest component of your body, which is kind of everywhere.
Kind of keep,
the front legs,
Kind of keep his back end where it can hold him up.
Yep. But I don't want to release too much in the hind end, because then he's going to say, whoa, that's a lot, and then want to put more in the front, right? So it's a balancing act. So that's kind of what I mean by redirecting versus release, is I don't want to, by releasing momentarily, sometimes we might destabilize it. And that is not very good for a horse in severe rehab, for example.
Now, we brought up the horse's body is like a house, and Taryn, you define this as room to room. You're going room to room, opening up doors. So elaborate a little bit more on that.
So going room to room, saying, is this a door that can open? Is this a door that needs to stay shut? Is it a door that we can kind of creep open a little bit and take a little peek in and say, oh, nope, never mind, and shut it really quick? We say, oh, that's a lot. We're going to look at that another day. Going, assessing the whole body, whether that be through the connective tissue, our fascia, going into the skeletal system, our muscles, tendons, ligaments, all that jazz, down to the visceral, and saying, hey, is this something we can kind of work with, or is it something we can't? And that's kind of where
Mike?
Yes, exactly.
do you, I mean, when you approach a horse, I know you approach a horse in several different ways. Does the room to room and door to door thing make a little bit of sense to you?
It does. I never pictured it in that way.
Can you picture that in your head?
Yes, I'll picture it in my head.
Okay. And also, we were talking about the emotional and physical thresholds of being an equine body worker, and what the horse experiences and what the owner experiences, or the trainer or the rider, and the horse's emotional experience as well. Taryn?
So that is gauging their response and their physical and emotional response on what we have at hand. And is this something we need to say, okay, you are now retired, and, this is it, right? Or is this something like, let's gauge your abilities on, maybe you can continue being a riding horse, and gauging their thresholds on the response to what we're doing, and kind of going from there. Mike?
Yeah. And, dealing with the whole package, and sometimes the expectations that are put in front of the horse that are human induced, that need
to go away.
And some people get kind of emotional about that sometimes, Yeah.
All right, Taryn, where can our listeners find you, and how can they get a hold of you if they have any more questions for you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook. You can find my business page on Facebook called Language of Nature Bodywork. On Instagram, I'm Language of Nature LLC, I think. Oh gosh, what am I on Instagram? And then that is probably the best place to reach me. Instagram is Language of Nature Bodywork, as is Facebook. And email is the same thing, Language of Nature, but that is Language of Nature LLC at Gmail.
Mike, you want to add anything?
No, from my end of it, if somebody can free up the body of the horse, it makes my job easier. And vice versa. If you've got a horse with a real train wreck as far as feet, it's very difficult for you to get stuff to release.
Exactly.
I have a quick question for you, Taryn. When you come out, what is the length? You were talking about at the beginning of the show, you were talking about like a massager comes out and says, okay, a session is an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 40, whatever their rate is. Is it a set, I'm only going to do 60 minutes, or is it until you complete that day's activities? Does it run, hours? Does it run 30 minutes? What is the length when they have a body worker come out? Is there a set time?
So I'm an hour, but also it varies on the horse, and I'm out there for as long as the horse wants me, or however long they need me. Sometimes that's even less. Sometimes, there are horses that just say, oh, my quarter is run out, I'm done. And that's when the session ends. And that might be at 40 minutes. That might be at 30 minutes. And so I am there for the amount that the horse needs me for.
When the egg timer runs out.
Right. All right.
Yeah, when the quarter runs out, then they are, yeah.
All right, on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your ponies. And thank you, Taryn.
And we'd like to thank Taryn Smedley, equine body worker, for joining us.
Woo! Thank you, guys.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week.
Bye.
Okay, we're going.
Oh, that was fun, guys. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. It was very, very entertaining. You've got a lot of information, and you look natural. I don't know if you were worried or anything or nervous or anything. You did a great job.
I have a nervous disorder.
Sometimes
Central nervous disorder, central nervous system, or actual nervous?
he's got one of each.
I'm gonna take a trip to the nervous hospital.